I sat in the courtroom, surrounded by family who wanted to steal my freedom. My mother leaned over to her lawyer and whispered something. He nodded. They both looked at me like I was already gone. 23 years old. That is how old I was when my own mother tried to have me declared insane. The courtroom smelled like old wood and air freshener. Harsh fluorescent lights hummed overhead. I sat at a table on the left side, my lawyer Mr. Caldwell beside me. On the right side sat my mother, my uncle Richard, and his wife Patricia. Behind them, a man in a gray suit I did not recognize. They did not look at me like family. They looked at me like a problem that needed to be solved. The judge had not arrived yet. My mother was whispering to her lawyer again, her hand covering her mouth like she was sharing secrets. She wore black, as if she was still in mourning. But I knew better. The only thing my mother mourned was the $2.3 million she did not inherit. Mr. Caldwell touched my arm. He was an older man, silver hair, kind eyes. He had been my grandmother's lawyer for 30 years. Now he was mine. Whatever happens, he said quietly, don't react. Your grandmother prepared for this. I looked at him. Prepared how? There's a video, he said. But the timing has to be perfect. Trust me, a video. I did not understand. Grandma had been sick for 6 months before she passed. What video could she have made? And why had she never mentioned it to me before I could ask more? The bailiff announced, all rise. The Honorable Judge Harrison presiding. We stood. Judge Harrison walked in, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, with reading glasses perched on her nose. She settled into her chair and looked at both tables. This is a competency hearing regarding Chloe Harper, she said. The petitioners claim Miss Harper lacks the mental capacity to manage the estate left to her by Eleanor Sinclair. Is that correct? My mother's lawyer stood. His name was Marcus Webb. He had a reputation for being ruthless in inheritance cases. That is correct, Your Honor. I felt my stomach turn. Mental capacity. They were trying to say I was crazy, that I had somehow manipulated my dying grandmother into leaving me everything. The truth was simpler, and sadder. I was the only one who showed up. 6 months ago, my grandmother called me. Her voice was different, tired, thin, like paper being crumpled slowly. Chloe, sweetheart, she said, I need to tell you something. Cancer. Stage 4. Pancreatic. The doctors gave her 6 months, maybe less. By the time they found it, there was nothing they could do except manage the pain. I drove to her house that same night. It was a 3-hour drive from my apartment, but I did not care. I had just graduated college, was working as a teaching assistant at an elementary school. I loved those kids. I loved watching them discover art for the first time. I quit the next morning and moved in with her. My mother never visited, not once. She called sometimes, usually on Sunday afternoons when she knew I would be there to answer, but the calls were never about Grandma. They were never about how she was feeling, or if she needed anything, or if she was scared. They were always about the will. Has she talked about her estate, my mother would ask. Her voice would be casual, but I could hear the hunger underneath. Has she mentioned the house, the investments? Does she still have that financial advisor? I would hang up on her, every single time. Uncle Richard called too, but he did not even pretend to care. Eleanor is not thinking clearly, he said once. Someone should have power of attorney, someone responsible, someone in the family who understands money. I am family, I told him. He laughed, actually laughed, like I had told a joke. You know what I mean, Chloe. You are a sweet girl, but you do not know the first thing about managing assets. You are an art teacher. You make what, $30,000 a year? I am her granddaughter, and I am her son. Diane is her daughter. We have experience. We have connections. We have the ability to grow that estate instead of watching some naive girl squander it. I hung up on him too. But Grandma Eleanor heard everything. Her hearing was still sharp, even when everything else was failing. She knew exactly what her children were doing, what they wanted, what they would try when she was gone. One night, about 2 months before she passed, she grabbed my hand. The chemotherapy had made her thin, fragile. I could see the veins through her papery skin, but her grip was still strong. They will come for you when I am gone, she said. Diane and Richard. They will try to take everything. Grandma, do not talk like that. Listen to me. Her eyes were sharp, clear, not confused, not medicated into oblivion, just clear like she could see straight through to the future. I have made arrangements with Mr. Caldwell. He has something for you, a safeguard. When the time is right, he will know what to do. What kind of safeguard? She smiled. It was a small smile, tired but knowing. Let us just say I know my children better than they think, and I have learned that the best way to catch a liar is to let them tell their lies first. I did not understand then. I thought she was being paranoid. The medication, maybe, the fear of dying, the knowledge that her own children cared more about her money than her final months. I understand now. Your Honor. I would like to call Dr. William Morrison to the stand. The man in the gray suit stood up. He walked to the witness stand with the confidence of someone who had done this many times before. He was maybe 50, with a neat beard, wire-rimmed glasses, and shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My mother's lawyer approached him. Dr. Morrison, please state your credentials for the court. I am a licensed psychiatrist with 22 years of experience. I specialize in competency evaluations and forensic psychology. I have served as an expert witness in over 300 cases involving mental capacity and estate disputes. 300 cases. He was a professional, someone families hired when they wanted to take things away from people. And you recently evaluated Miss Harper. I did. 2 weeks ago at the request of her family. I remembered that evaluation. I had not wanted to go, but my mother had called crying, saying she just wanted to make sure I was okay, that she was worried about me, that this was for my own good. She said I seemed stressed, distant, not myself. For the first time in years, she sounded like she actually cared. I should have known. The first time my mother cried for me since I was a child, and it was a trap. The evaluation had taken place in a cold office downtown. Dr. Morrison had asked me questions for 2 hours about my childhood, about my relationship with my grandmother, about why I had quit my job, about my attachment issues. He had nodded a lot, written things down, looked at me with what I thought was understanding. Now I knew it was calculation. What were your findings, doctor? The lawyer asked. Dr. Morrison opened a folder, cleared his throat. Based on my comprehensive evaluation, Miss Harper exhibits signs of emotional instability, possible delusional thinking, and poor judgment. She demonstrates an unhealthy attachment to her deceased grandmother that borders on codependency. She shows difficulty distinguishing between appropriate and inappropriate relationships, and she lacks the emotional maturity to handle significant financial responsibility. My hands started shaking under the table. Unhealthy attachment. Codependency. I sat with her through chemotherapy. I held her hand when she could not sleep from the pain. I made her soup when she could not keep anything else down. I cleaned up after her when she was too weak to make it to the bathroom in time. That was unhealthy. In your professional opinion, the lawyer continued, is Miss Harper capable of managing a multi-million-dollar estate? Dr. Morrison shook his head slowly, as if it pained him to say it. No, I do not believe she is. Her emotional volatility, combined with her lack of financial experience and her apparent susceptibility to manipulation, makes her an extremely poor candidate for such responsibility. I would recommend a guardian be appointed to manage her financial affairs and potentially her personal decisions as well. Personal decisions. They did not just want my money, they wanted to control my life. I looked at my mother. She was nodding along her face, arranged in an expression of sad concern. Her eyes were wet like she might cry, like this was breaking her heart. But I saw the truth in those eyes. Behind the performance, they were bright, excited, hungry. Uncle Richard leaned over and patted her shoulder, a comforting gesture for the cameras. Patricia was already smiling, not even bothering to hide it. They thought they had won. Mr. Caldwell cross-examined Dr. Morrison, but the damage was done. The doctor had credentials, he had a report. He had 22 years of expertise and 300 cases to back up his assessment. And I was just a 23-year-old girl who painted with children and cried too easily. Who was I to argue with a professional? When the doctor stepped down, my mother's lawyer called me to the stand. I walked on shaky legs. The courtroom felt enormous suddenly, all those eyes on me. I sat in the wooden chair, put my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The truth. As if anyone in this room cared about that. Miss Harper, the lawyer began. He straightened his tie, smiled at me like a shark. You recently graduated from college, is that correct? Yes, last May. And what was your major? Art education. He raised an eyebrow. Art education, not business, not finance, not law, not accounting, no, and yet you believe you are qualified to manage an estate worth over $2 million, an estate that includes real estate stock portfolios and various investment accounts. I gripped the armrests. I believe my grandmother trusted me. That is why she left it to me. Your grandmother was elderly and ill. She was on heavy medication for pain. Morphine, I believe. He did not wait for me to answer. Is it not possible that you took advantage of her condition, that you manipulated a dying woman who was not thinking clearly? I took care of her. You isolated her from her family. Her family did not visit, because you would not let them. That is not true, my voice cracked. I could feel tears building behind my eyes. No, not now, not here. I begged them to come. I called my mother every week. She always had an excuse. She was busy, she had a headache, she would come next weekend. I looked at my mother. She was shaking her head slowly, sadly, as if I was the one lying. Is it not true, the lawyer continued, that you quit your job to move in with her, that you had no income, that you were completely dependent on your grandmother financially during those final months? I quit my job to take care of her, but because no one else would, or because you saw an opportunity. He stepped closer. An elderly woman, wealthy, alone, vulnerable, easy to influence, easy to manipulate. No, you convinced her to change her will, did you not? To leave everything to you instead of her own children. I never asked for anything, but you got everything. How convenient. She made her own choice. The tears spilled over now. I could not stop them. They ran hot down my cheeks. She was not confused. She was not manipulated. She knew exactly what she was doing. A woman on morphine knew exactly what she was doing. He laughed. The sound echoed in the courtroom. No further questions. I looked at my mother through blurred eyes. She looked away. Judge Harrison called a 15-minute recess. I walked out of the courtroom on unsteady legs. My hands were still shaking. I could barely see through the tears. Mr. Caldwell guided me to a bench in the hallway, and I sat down and put my face in my hands. I ruined it, I whispered. I cried. I looked crazy. I did exactly what they wanted. You looked human, Mr. Caldwell said. There is nothing wrong with that. The judge is going to give them what they want. She said she was inclined to grant the petition. She already made up her mind. She has not seen everything yet. I heard footsteps on the marble floor. When I looked up, my mother was standing in front of me. She looked concerned, worried, the way she always looked when other people might be watching. Chloe, sweetheart, her voice was soft, gentle, dripping with fake sympathy. This does not have to be so hard. Just sign over the estate. Let us handle it. We can make this all go away. You can get on with your life. I stared at her. You are doing this for money. Her face flickered. Just for a second, less than a heartbeat. The mask slipped and I saw something underneath. Something cold, something hungry. I am doing this because I love you, she said. But her voice was different now, harder. The softness was gone. Because you clearly cannot handle this responsibility. Because you are unstable, just like that doctor said. I am not unstable. You just cried on the witness stand, Chloe. You made a scene. You embarrassed yourself. She leaned closer. Her perfume was suffocating. That money belongs to this family, not to some girl who could not even hold down a teaching job. Not to someone who dropped out of real life to play nurse for a dying old woman. There it was, the truth behind the tears. Behind the fake concern, behind the worried mother act. Grandma left it to me, I said. My voice was steady now. The tears had stopped. She chose me. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she chose me. My mother's eyes went cold. My mother was not thinking clearly. She was dying. She was confused. The medication made her paranoid. And you took advantage of a vulnerable old woman because you saw a payday. I loved her. You used her. She straightened up, smoothed her jacket. And when this is over, you will have nothing, just like you deserve. She walked away. Her heels clicked on the marble like a countdown. Mr. Caldwell sat down beside me again. His hand was steady on my shoulder. Your grandmother knew, he said quietly. She knew exactly who they were. That is why she prepared. The video, I said. What is on it? What did she record? He looked toward the courtroom doors. Everything we need, but we have to wait. Let them think they have won first. Let them feel safe. Why? He smiled. It was a small smile, but it was not kind. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment. Because your grandmother learned something very important over the years. The best way to expose a liar is to give them room to lie. And the best time to spring a trap is when your enemy is celebrating. The bailiff opened the doors. Court is resuming. I stood up, wiped my face, took a deep breath. "Trust me," Mr. Caldwell said. "Trust her," I nodded, and I walked back into the courtroom. My mother was already seated whispering to Uncle Richard. They both looked pleased with themselves. Patricia was checking her phone, probably already researching vacation homes she could buy with her share. Judge Harrison returned to her seat. She shuffled her papers, looked at both tables. Based on the testimony presented, she said, "I am inclined to grant the petition for temporary guardianship, pending a full competency evaluation." My heart stopped. No. My mother's smile widened. Uncle Richard nodded sagely. Patricia actually pumped her fist under the table. I gripped the edge of my chair so hard, my knuckles went white. This was it. They were going to take everything. My freedom, my future, my grandmother's final wish. However, Judge Harrison continued. The room went still. "Before I make my final ruling, I will allow both parties to present any additional evidence they may have." Mr. Caldwell rose slowly. His movements were calm, measured. "Your Honor, we do have one final piece of evidence to present." My mother's lawyer frowned. He stood up quickly. "Your Honor, we were not informed of any additional evidence. This is highly irregular." "This evidence was sealed until certain conditions were met," Mr. Caldwell replied, "as per the wishes of the deceased. The petitioners filing this lawsuit was one of those conditions." Judge Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Eleanor Sinclair, the deceased, anticipated the situation. She left specific instructions that certain evidence was only to be revealed if her estate was contested in court. Until today, those conditions had not been met. The courtroom doors opened. A woman in a dark suit walked in carrying a laptop and a small projector. Mr. Caldwell turned to face the judge. "The evidence in question is a video deposition recorded by Eleanor Sinclair 2 months before her death. In it, she addresses the contents of her will, her reasons for her decisions, and her concerns about certain family members." I looked at my mother. The color was draining from her face. Her confident smile had vanished. She gripped her lawyer's arm. "She would not," my mother whispered. Her voice was barely audible, but in the silent courtroom everyone heard it. She could not have known. Mr. Caldwell looked directly at her and smiled. She did. The woman in the dark suit set up the laptop on a table facing the judge. A projector flickered to life, casting a white rectangle on the wall behind the witness stand. My mother's lawyer was on his feet immediately. "Your Honor, this is completely improper. We have had no time to review this evidence. We have had no opportunity to verify its authenticity. I move to exclude this video from the proceedings." "The video was recorded in my office," Mr. Caldwell said calmly, "with 2 witnesses present, both of whom have provided sworn affidavits that I can submit to the court. The chain of custody is impeccable. Every legal requirement has been met." Judge Harrison looked at the lawyer, then at my mother, then at Mr. Caldwell. Her expression gave nothing away. "I will allow it," she said finally. "Objection overruled. You may proceed." My mother grabbed her lawyer's arm. I could see her fingernails digging into his sleeve, her knuckles white with pressure. Her face had gone pale, almost gray, like all the blood had drained away. Uncle Richard was whispering urgently in her ear, but she was not listening. Her eyes were fixed on that white rectangle on the wall like it was a window into her own personal hell. "Proceed," the judge repeated. Mr. Caldwell nodded to the woman operating the laptop. She clicked a button. The screen flickered, static for a moment. And then my grandmother's face appeared. My heart clenched in my chest. She looked thinner than I remembered from those final days. Frailer. The hospital bed was visible behind her, the IV stand, the monitors with their blinking lights. But her eyes were sharp, clear, alive with intelligence and something else. Something that looked almost like satisfaction, almost like triumph. "My name is Eleanor Margaret Sinclair," she said. Her voice was steady, despite the oxygen tube under her nose. "I am recording this video on September 15th of this year at 3:47 in the afternoon. I am of sound mind. I have specifically requested to skip my pain medication today so that no one can claim I was impaired or confused when I made this statement. My doctor can verify this. My lawyer, Mr. James Caldwell, is present as a witness, along with his legal assistant, Miss Patricia Okonkwo." I heard my mother inhale sharply. The detail, the preparation. Grandma had thought of everything. "I am dying." Grandma continued on the screen. "Pancreatic cancer. The doctors say I have 2 months left, maybe less. The pain is considerable, but my mind is clear. Clearer than it has been in years, actually. There is nothing like a death sentence to help you see things as they truly are. She paused, took a breath. The oxygen hissed softly in the silence. And I know exactly what will happen when I'm gone. She leaned forward slightly. Her eyes seemed to look directly through the screen, directly at my mother. My daughter Diane and my son Richard will contest my will. They will claim I was not competent. They will claim my granddaughter Chloe manipulated me. They will hire doctors to say I was confused, medicated, easily influenced. They will do everything in their power to take what I have chosen to give to someone else, someone who actually deserves it. Uncle Richard shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The leather creaked beneath him. Patricia's permanent smile had vanished completely, replaced by something that looked like panic. So let me be crystal clear, Grandma said, her voice gaining strength. I am leaving my entire estate to my granddaughter Chloe Harper. Not because she asked for it. In all the months she has been caring for me, she has never once asked for anything. Not money, not promises, not reassurances about the will. Nothing. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. I am not leaving it to her because she manipulated me. The only manipulation in this family has come from my own children. For years. For decades. I have watched them lie and scheme and plot, always with their hands out, always wanting more. She took another breath. The effort was visible now. I am leaving everything to Chloe because she is the only one who showed up. The only one who held my hand through chemotherapy when I was vomiting and crying and begging God to let me die. The only one who sat with me at 3 a.m. when the pain was so bad I could not sleep. The only one who treated me like a person instead of a bank account waiting to be cashed. The courtroom was silent. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Somewhere behind me someone coughed. The sound echoed like a gunshot. On the screen, Grandma continued. Diane has not visited me in 4 months. She lives 40 minutes away. 40 minutes. She calls sometimes. Not to ask how I am feeling. Not to say she loves me. She calls to ask about money, about the house, about my investments. She wants to know if I have updated my will. She wants to know what she is going to get. I looked at my mother. She was shaking her head slowly, mouthing the word no over and over. Her carefully applied makeup was starting to crack. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Richard is worse, Grandma said. Her voice had hardened now. My own son. He tried to get power of attorney 3 months ago. He went to my doctor behind my back and claimed I had dementia. He told my accountant I was no longer competent to manage my own affairs. He wanted control of everything before I was even cold in the ground. When that did not work, when my doctor told him I was perfectly lucid, he stopped calling altogether. He has not spoken to me in 11 weeks. Uncle Richard's face was crimson. He looked like he wanted to stand up and object, to shout, to deny. But his lawyer had a firm hand on his arm, holding him in his seat. My children see me as a dying bank account, Grandma said. Chloe sees me as a grandmother, as a person, as someone worth loving. That is why she gets everything. That is my choice, made with a clear mind and a full heart and absolutely no regrets. She smiled then. It was a small, sad smile that made my chest ache. But I know my children. I have known them for almost 50 years. I know they will not accept this. So I have prepared something else, something they do not know about, something that will show the court exactly who my daughter really is. My mother went rigid in her seat. Her whole body tensed like she was preparing to run. I would like to show the court a recording I made 3 weeks ago, when my daughter Diane came to visit me for the first time in 4 months, the only time she visited me in my final months of life. The screen flickered. A new video began. This one was filmed from a different angle. It looked like a hidden camera positioned high in the corner of a room near the ceiling. I recognized the room immediately. Grandma's bedroom, the hospital bed they had set up for her, the monitors with their blinking lights, the window with the blue curtains that she loved because they reminded her of the ocean. And there was my mother, standing at the foot of the bed, her arms crossed over her chest, her face twisted with something ugly, impatience, disgust, contempt. Just sign the papers, Mother. Her voice was sharp, cold, completely unlike the concerned mother act she had been performing all day in court. You are going to die anyway. Why does it matter who gets what? It is just money. You cannot take it with you. On the bed, Grandma looked small, fragile. Her thin arms lay on top of the blankets like broken branches. But her voice was steady. It matters to me. It should not. You will be dead. You will not care. You will not know. I care now, while I am still alive." My mother threw her hands up. The gesture was violent, frustrated. "This is ridiculous. Richard and I are your children, your blood. We deserve that money. We have earned it. Even through the grainy recording, I could hear the disbelief in Grandma's voice. "How exactly have you earned it, Diane?" "By ignoring me for years, by only calling when you needed something, by treating me like an obligation instead of a mother. We have our own lives. Mother, we have jobs, responsibilities. We cannot all drop everything to play nurse like your precious Chloe." Chloe did not play nurse. She loved me. She still loves me. That is the difference. Chloe is a naive little girl who saw an opportunity and took it. My mother stepped closer to the bed, looming over her dying mother. "She has been filling your head with nonsense, turning you against your own family. She probably planned this from the beginning. Chloe has never said a bad word about you, not once. Even when I asked her opinion, even when I told her what you and Richard have been doing, she defended you. She said you were just stressed. That is more than I can say about how you talk about her, because she is manipulating you." My mother's voice rose to a shout that echoed off the walls. "Can you not see that she quit her job? She moved in here like some kind of vulture. She has been living off you for months, and now she is going to get everything while your actual children get nothing." Grandma was quiet for a long moment. The monitors beeped softly, the oxygen hissed. "Yes," she said finally, "she is." My mother's face contorted. The mask dropped completely. For a few seconds she looked like a stranger, like something ugly and hateful wearing my mother's skin. "If you do this," she said, her voice low and dangerous, barely above a whisper, "I will destroy her. I will have her declared incompetent. I will drag her through every court in the state. I will spend every penny I have making sure she never sees a dollar of that money. I will ruin that little brat's life." "Is that a threat, Diane?" "It is a promise, Mother." My mother leaned in close, her face inches from Grandma's. "And there is nothing you can do to stop me. You will be dead, and dead women cannot protect anyone." The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. I could feel the horror radiating from everyone around me. Even the court reporter had stopped typing. On the screen, Grandma's face remained calm, almost serene. There was no fear in her eyes, only something that looked almost like pity. "Are you finished?" she asked quietly. What? Grandma raised one thin arm, pointed to the corner of the room, to the camera that my mother had not noticed. "I asked if you are finished. I want to make sure I got everything." My mother followed her pointing finger, saw the small camera, her face went white. "You," she started. "I know my children," Grandma said. "I have known what you are for a very long time. I just hoped you might prove me wrong. But you never do you, Diane? You never ever disappoint my lowest expectations." The video ended. The white rectangle on the wall went dark. The silence in the courtroom was absolute, complete, like the world itself had stopped breathing. I looked at my mother. She was frozen in her seat, her mouth open, her eyes wide and staring at nothing. She looked like she had been turned to stone by the gaze of something terrible. Judge Harrison slowly removed her reading glasses. She set them down on the bench with a soft click that sounded impossibly loud in the silence. When she spoke, her voice was ice and steel and barely controlled fury. "Mrs. Thornton, would you like to respond to what we just witnessed?" My mother's lawyer stood up. His movements were jerky, uncertain. His face was pale and sweating. "Your Honor, that video. It could have been edited, taken out of context." My client was clearly upset dealing with the stress of her mother's terminal illness. She said things she did not mean. She threatened to destroy her own niece, Judge Harrison said, cutting him off, on camera, to her dying mother's face, after admitting she had not visited that dying mother in 4 months. "That is not sit down, counselor." He sat. Judge Harrison turned her full attention to my mother. The weight of that gaze seemed to physically press my mother back into her chair. "Mrs. Thornton, you filed this petition claiming your daughter was mentally incompetent. You brought a psychiatrist who testified under oath that she was unstable. You accused her of manipulating a dying woman for financial gain." My mother said nothing. Her hands were shaking visibly. Her carefully constructed facade had crumbled completely. "And now I have seen video evidence that you threatened to do exactly what you are doing, that you planned this attack while your mother was still alive, that you told her to her face while she lay dying that you would ruin your own daughter's life." "I was upset," my mother whispered. Her voice was barely audible. I did not mean it. I was grieving. I was not thinking clearly. You meant every word. Judge Harrison's voice was hard as granite. That video was not the outburst of a grieving daughter. That was calculated cruelty. That was a threat delivered with full intention to follow through. And you have followed through, haven't you? You are doing exactly what you promised to do. She paused. Let the words sink in. I have seen a lot of family disputes in this courtroom over the years. Greed, jealousy, resentment, siblings fighting over scraps, children turning against parents. I thought I had seen the worst of human nature. She shook her head slowly. But I have never seen anything quite like this. She turned to me. Her expression softened just slightly. There was something almost like sympathy in her eyes. Miss Harper, I owe you an apology. Based on the testimony presented earlier today, I was prepared to grant temporary guardianship. I was prepared to take away your freedom based on the word of a hired psychiatrist and the crocodile tears of a woman who just wanted your money. I was wrong. I could not speak. My throat was too tight. I just nodded. The petition is denied, Judge Harrison announced, her voice ringing through the courtroom. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Filing a fraudulent petition is a crime. Perjury is a crime. Conspiracy to defraud someone of their lawful inheritance is a crime. And I have a very strong suspicion that Dr. Morrison's testimony was not entirely honest. She looked at the psychiatrist. He had gone white as paper, his hands gripping the edge of his seat. I would strongly recommend you consult with a criminal defense attorney, doctor. A very good one. Because when this is investigated, I suspect we will find that your evaluation was purchased, rather than performed in good faith. Dr. Morrison said nothing. He looked like he might vomit. Court is adjourned. The courtroom exploded into chaos. My mother was on her feet screaming at her lawyer, her face red and contorted. Uncle Richard was trying to push past the bailiff to get to the door. Patricia was sobbing loudly, her mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. I just sat there, numb, unable to move, unable to fully process what had just happened. Mr. Caldwell touched my shoulder gently. It is over, he said. You won. The word did not feel real. None of this felt real. Miss Harper, Judge Harrison, was looking at me from the bench. The estate of Eleanor Sinclair is yours, entirely, without condition or restriction. Your grandmother made certain of that. Thank you, I managed. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, far away, like someone else was speaking. Do not thank me. Thank her, the judge almost smiled. She was a remarkable woman. She saw exactly what would happen, and she prepared for it. She protected you even from beyond the grave. I thought of Grandma, lying in that hospital bed, recording videos when she should have been resting, planning for a future she would never see, making sure that even after she was gone, I would be safe. She knew everything, and she loved me enough to fight for me even when she was dying. I walked out of the courtroom on unsteady legs. The hallway was chaos. Reporters had appeared from somewhere, drawn by the drama. My mother was arguing loudly with a court officer who was blocking her path. Uncle Richard was shouting into his phone, probably calling his own lawyer to start damage control. My mother saw me. For a moment, our eyes met across the crowded hallway. I expected rage, hatred, more threats. Instead, I saw something else, something I had never seen on her face before in all my 23 years. Fear. She was afraid of me now, afraid of what I could do, afraid of what Grandma had given me. Not just money, power, the power to expose her, the power to fight back, the power to win. Good. I walked past her without a word. I did not need to say anything. Everything that needed to be said had already been said by a dead woman who loved me. Mr. Caldwell was waiting by the elevator. He had a thick manila folder in his hand. There is more, he said quietly. Your grandmother left detailed instructions. Things she wanted you to have. Things she wanted you to know. More videos. Letters. Financial documents. A complete accounting of everything your mother and uncle have done over the years. Money they borrowed and never repaid. Lies they told. Schemes they attempted. He handed me the folder. She kept records of everything. She was very, very thorough. I looked at the folder. It was heavy with paper, years of documentation, years of evidence. She watched them for a long time, Mr. Caldwell continued. She saw what they were becoming, But she also saw what you were. She told me once that you were the only good thing to come out of her family in 2 generations. She said you reminded her of herself when she was young, before life made her hard. My eyes burned with tears I refused to let fall. Not here. Not where anyone could see. What do I do now? I asked. Whatever you want. He smiled kindly. You are 23 years old. You have a substantial inheritance. And you have absolutely no obligations to anyone who does not deserve them. I thought about that. A life without my mother's constant manipulation, without Uncle Richard's condescension, without the grinding weight of people who only ever saw me as a means to their ends. She wanted me to be free, I said softly. Yes, that is exactly what she wanted. I drove to the cemetery that afternoon. The sky was gray and heavy, threatening rain. The wind was cold, cutting through my jacket. But I did not care. I found her grave easily. The headstone was simple white marble, elegant in its simplicity. Just her name, her dates, and a single line she had chosen herself. She loved without condition. I knelt in the damp grass beside it. The ground was soft from an earlier rain, and my knees sank into the earth. I did not care about ruining my clothes. None of that mattered. You knew, I said to the stone, to the woman beneath it, to wherever she was now. You knew everything, what they would do, what they would say. You planned for all of it. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. A crow called out somewhere in the distance. I thought I was protecting you, I continued. All those months, taking care of you, holding your hand, trying to make your last days comfortable. I thought I was the one being strong for you. A tear slid down my cheek. I let it fall, but you were protecting me. The whole time, even when you were in pain, even when you were scared. Even when you were dying, you were thinking about what would happen to me after you were gone. I touched the cold marble, traced the letters of her name with my fingertip. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for believing in me when I did not believe in myself. Thank you for fighting for me even when you could not fight for yourself anymore. The wind picked up, suddenly swirling around me like an embrace. It almost sounded like a voice, like a whisper just beyond the edge of hearing, like someone saying, "You are welcome, sweetheart, now go live." I stood up slowly, wiped my face, looked up at the gray sky. For 23 years, I had been the quiet one, the peacekeeper, the one who never made waves, the one who let people walk over her because fighting back seemed too hard, too uncomfortable, too unlike the person I thought I was supposed to be. Not anymore. My mother had called me naive, unstable, a little brat who could not even hold down a job. Maybe I was naive once. Maybe I trusted too easily. Maybe I saw good in people who did not deserve it. But Grandma had believed in me. She had trusted me with everything she had. Her money, her legacy, her faith in who I could become. And I was not going to let her down. I walked back to my car. Her car now. The estate was mine to manage. The house was mine to live in. The future was mine to shape however I wanted. And I had plans, not revenge, not exactly. Grandma would not have wanted me to become bitter, to let hatred poison my soul the way it had poisoned my mother. But justice, accountability, making sure that the people who tried to destroy me faced real consequences for their actions, that felt right. That felt like exactly what she would have wanted. I started the engine and pulled out of the cemetery parking lot. In the rearview mirror, the headstones grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared around a curve in the road. But I knew she was still with me, in the folder on the passenger seat, in the plans she had made, in the love she had given me every single day of her life. Thank you, Grandma, I said to the empty car. I will make you proud. And somewhere, somehow, I knew she heard me.